earth change events possibly coming. I've been talking about that for a while. And economic system basically, crumbling. It has to do all this stuff for us to really go forward, I believe. Larry, thanks for coming back.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure. So,
yes.
Ready to start?
Yeah, let me throw the slides up in the slide presentation.
Okay, before we get to that first one, I want to give the people an overview. So what I do is, this is one topic you see, but basically it's got 5 subcomponents to it. We're going to be talking about the fall of governments that have to fall. We're going to be talking about the fact that the Bible always forewarns us. God always forewarns us. That's signs in the sky. We're talking about that. We're going to be talking about global warning signs, pole shifts possibly, and order out of chaos. So God's got to bring everything down, cleanse everything, and then we're going to have the most amazing future you can imagine. So I just wanted to set the stage. There's some scary stuff in here. But don't be afraid. God's in control. And as we go through this, you're going to see that he always knows the end before the beginning. So don't get afraid with the things that I'm going to show you, especially not if you're walking with the Lord, because there's an old saying that's right out of the Bible. 1,000 can fall to your right, 10,000 to the left. But if you're walking with the Lord, you're going to be okay. You might be actually in a place where there's an earthquake or a tsunami or whatever, but if you are walking with the Lord, you'll be spared. And he might have you there specifically because he wants you to be the calm in the middle of the storm to help bring order out of chaos in that area. Or if you're younger, perhaps he might want to move you to a safe area to where you can basically be a nucleus for starting some kind of a new community after we have some of this collapse. So with that, let's go on to the second slide and we'll dig into the meat.
And that makes a lot of sense because I've told people to get out of certain areas, but they're like, I believe I need to be here, and you made that point really good because I think people need to be there. They're of high vibration, connect to the Lord, and they're calm and they're peaceful because there's going to be a lot of tragic things that are going to happen, I believe, going forward.
Is Tahoe? I'm bad on the map. Is Tahoe on the west side of the Rockies?
We're in so we're, I guess, the left side of the Rockies. So if you go up
east side,
if you go east, that's where you hit the Rockies. So we're in the Cascades. So
okay.
It's California, Nevada, goes up into Oregon and Washington State. So we got, we're right on the Ring of Fire. We got all the volcanoes and stuff.
Yeah, but you're high up and you're in the mountains. You're probably okay. Well, let's actually dig into the slides so we're not here till tomorrow morning. There's a lot of slides here. This is what's coming. If you look around, it's like nothing I've ever seen. I'm 77 years old and I've never seen anything like this. Russia's walked into this war and now they're financially just about bankrupt. Their oil has been shut down, which is their main revenue stream, and the people are basically having some real hardships. And I think it's looking like just put a little more oil squeeze on Russia, and Russia's going to collapse. And what's happening in Iran? It's another oil squeeze. America now is in the enviable position. After I had my near-death experience in '68, I kept saying, God, why does America have to import oil from other places? And the answer I kept getting is because I'm saving its oil for the last. So basically, we now have more oil that we produce than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. That's amazing. So Trump is able to use the oil, the liquid gold, to pressure Iran, to pressure China. So a lot of these falls that you're seeing are all ordained by God because he's using his natural resources in order to bring about what he can do in a day, bring governments down. And then what that has to do with the last picture up here. So I think very soon, without fighting any battles, we're going to see Cuba fall because Cuba has literally no oil. And so they're basically, their lights are going out. So what we're seeing in the kingdoms of man falling so that God can usher in his kingdom. So we got another slide in here we'll get into later, but I'm going to show you that the capitalism and communism have to fall. Now this next slide, I need to tell you, this is my prediction, and I might be wrong. This is my strategical analysis of the steps. I think I've got all the data right, but maybe the steps are not quite 100%. So here's what we're going to have. First comes the whistleblowers. And boy, are they coming out right now. And it started with Venezuela. I think the Brunson case is on the back burner and going to get exposed. And I think we're going to find out that we have a bunch of people in Washington, D.C. that are traitors. And we're gonna see the government of the United States fall. And with everything else that's happened with the silver squeeze and everything, I think we're going to see banks fail. We're going to see corporations fail. We're going to see the government be pulled out, and we're going to get out from under the corporation, and we're going to have honest elections. I believe that we have 120 days in order to be able to call a special election and put in new politicians. So that's what's coming on the world. And next week, I left one slide out, one country out in particular. Next week, I'm going to devote a whole show to exposing the European Union. That's the nation we left in order to get our freedom. And we need to expose who and what they are. They're part of the beast system in the book of Revelation. So let's go on down and finish this slide here. So then comes financial collapse. And then after that, the globalists lose their power and they lose their money. Remember, money is what gives them their power and allows them to buy all the spheres of influence. And then, oh my goodness, this is the scary part. All global collapse breaks out all over the world. But remember, if you've been following me, Trump has got this orchestrated like a Stradivarius violin. He's creating a soft collapse of the U.S. dollar, and then he's got a plan to restore America back immediately. And once we restored America back to economic prowess and back to being the manufacturing leader of the world again, which I think he's geared to do very, very quickly, then a restored America helps restore the rest of the world and steps into its destiny. We were chosen before the foundation of time, and there's slides in here that will show this, to basically be the chosen nation, the lighthouse on the hill that would basically show people you can live together. That's why they call us the United States of America. And when we're done, it's going to be the United States of the world. And then let's go on down. God uses America to restore order out of chaos. The revival breaks out, and what does God want? There's a lot of people out there saying, oh, after this happens, we got 3 to 7 years. I don't think so. This is my opinion. I think that God promised me that he was coming back for a spotless church. And boy, our church is anything but spotless right now. So I think we walk into what? Repentance, and he gets his harvest of souls, his 2 billion souls, and then basically, I just put this last one in here because I like to play with numbers. 8 is God's number of completion. Before we go any further, instead of me controlling everything, Michael, do you have any comments before we go on?
No, this is good. The collapse of this B system. We just saw the Supreme Court go against Trump as far as like the tariffs. The tariffs have been, were one of the things that made America great. And then the B system came in, if we can call it that, in 1913. That's the Federal Reserve. And from that point on, they started the taxation system. So that's all of that is a B system. So that has to collapse. So with the, I guess the Supreme Court, there's a lot of corrupt people in the Supreme Court. I guess it's going to get exposed here pretty soon because Trump said, I'm going to show you what's going on with the Supreme Court members. So he just basically said, okay, I'm just going to work around you guys. I'm going to do a 15% global tax, so that's going to be what makes America great again, just like it did in the past, breaking free from this B system. So I completely agree with you.
Well, let me chime in on what you said about the past. So here's what Michael is referring to. We in America had a bankruptcy following the Civil War after fighting that war. And what did we do? We went against our enemy was England, which was the Europeans that we were leaving to come here to get freedom. We put a 50% tariff on England so that Americans couldn't buy American goods. That forced us to basically become the nation we are. So we developed the Transcontinental Railroad to get access to our natural resources. Then we developed the Industrial Revolution. We developed the assembly line. We developed the automobile and the light bulb and et cetera, et cetera. And we did something unheard of. Instead of hoarding it, we shared it with the world, and all the world benefited from what we did. And that's what's coming again. We're going into another reset. Trump in his first term basically got another Supreme Court decision done. And what it says is that there's 5,915 suppressed patents, which will absolutely change the world. And he's made provision for us to get them. So should we go on?
Yeah.
All right, I want to dig into this slide and note, stand when you were, if you wouldn't mind. And what basically we've got here is something that's happening right before our eyes. People sometimes don't realize it, but we're in the midst of deglobalizing and de-dollarizing. That means we're taking away power from China, because the world doesn't want to be tied to a logistics chain that's tied to China with the degree of power they have, but neither do they want to be controlled by the dollar. So those two systems has to collapse so that we can have basically God's system of economics brought in, and basically we can have freedom and prosperity. So they've got to fall. Let's go to the next slide and we'll tell you why. It basically because communism is oppressive. And what happens eventually, just like what's happening around the world, the people stand up and they revolt and the nations fall from within. And capitalism, I got news for you. America isn't capitalistic. It's a crony capitalism. We're not democracy. We were basically made as a republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's going to be restored. So if we go to the next slide, we win. So that's why I said, don't be afraid. This next reset is basically God's reset. It's not the global elite's reset. So capitalism will fall, communism will fall, and God's economic systems comes in. So if we go to this next slide, this is what it looks like. This is the new system that God is bringing in right here. God's abundance. It's one nation under God. It's not actually one nation under God. When we're done, it's going to be one world under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And here is my interpretation of what that government looks like. It might sound far-fetched, but I know that this is what God has planned for us. So it's the system that's based on an economic transfer like you cannot believe. A commodity-based system off under the fiat currency. So it's gold, it's silver, it's uranium, it's platinum, it's wheat, it's copper. It's every kind of commodity you can imagine that cannot be manipulated. So under the fiat system, they can cause boom-bust cycles. They can cause wage suppression. They can every dollar that's printed creates a debt obligation. But you can't do that with commodities because each one of them have an intrinsic value. So that we're going to have shared resources and technology. God wants us to be the stewards of the world. And we're going to go in, and we will not do that unless every nation in the world, say, for example, take the Paris Peace Accords. It was a sham, and it was never going to work unless every nation cooperated. And look at our oceans full of microplastics. America can't clean that up. No one nation can clean that up. We're going to have to come together and stand united as one world and clean things up. And the next, resource conservation. So I'm still on that same slide. I'm just going to the next bullet point. I should have said go to the next slide. I'm sorry. So basically, the next thing that happened is resource conservation. So the global elite tell us they want to kill us. They want to reduce population, according to the Georgia Guidestones, to 500 million, according to the UN, to 1 billion to 2 billion. And why do they want to do it? Because we're using too many of their natural resources. But if we go to this next bullet point, we'll see that that's a lie, because we could go to a product, a government that was based upon longevity and reusability. We have the ability to make products that last literally a lifetime and that are reusable and repairable. If that's the case, just stop and think a second. Look at everything we waste when you have to basically throw things away in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, when they could be made to be virtually last a lifetime. So we're going to go into an economic system that's based upon honoring the treasures that God has given us. And the money is not going to be used as a weapon anymore. We're going to get out from under the debt system and go to God's economic system that can't be controlled. And power in the hands of the population committed to what? To the in the interest of the masses. I just butchered that. So what we're basically saying is we're going to take control away from the global financial elite by taking their money away, and then we, the people, go into power. So let's go down to that next slide. And this is what you get when you see this bull here. I want you to see this goes all the way back, all the way to that far bottom left-hand corner. That's Baal. That's basically the child worshiping that was happening in the Middle East in Christ's time. And look up here, we got the bull in Wall Street, then we got a bull in Miami, and then we got the Commonwealth Games, where they had the audacity to bring that bull out, sit on a pentagram, kneel down on the ground, and worship Satan in front of thousands and thousands of people. Then you go to Brussels, and what you've got the bull again, and you got a lady on the back. And for those of you who know your Bible, that is a tell that is part of what? So Brussels, it's telling us right here, is part of the combination beast that's talked about in the book of Revelation. So this system has got to fall. Now, let me stop and let you see if you got anything else you want to add. I talk so fast, it's not even funny. Go ahead.
Yeah, you talk about the, what we're in now is a economy that came after the guild system. So the guild system, I think, was really good because we look at the older buildings, we look at furniture and so forth that were built by guilds, professional associations of artisans and merchants. They controlled, the quality of stuff. So you can see to this day 200-year-old chairs that are still level. They're beautifully made. They're exquisite works of art. You can sit in them. You can still use them. 200 years, past. Buildings and so forth, 200-300 years. These guilds basically built these. You have furniture today. If you're lucky, it lasts 5 years. You have a home, 30, 40, 50 years if you're lucky, but usually less than that. But we're looking at, in the past where before this monetary system, this corrupt monetary system came in and started controlling all that and really turning people into slaves. So I think that all the stuff you're putting out is absolutely incredible. If you look at some of the other, what's that one group where they have, still do horses and buggies and so forth?
The Amish.
The Amish, very good, thank you. So the Amish still live like that. And, someone needs to build a barn. Everybody gets together. They put the barn up in like a couple days. Somebody gets sick. Everybody gets together, take care of them and their families. So these are the things that I think are really high quality and things that we have unfortunately gotten away from. But I believe we're going to get back to them.
Yeah. And with what you said, that was tradesmen, that was quality. But now in this technological revolution, we're going to have that and more. Because take, for example, 3D concrete printed homes. That'll last 200 or 300 years. And we're coming out with new technology. Look at all those patents. So now we're going to be able to move to new exotic products, carbon fiber, stronger than steel, lightweight. We're going to be able to build things that you can't even imagine today. Take the old craftsmanship, marry it with the new technology, and we're going to build things that are going to last for not just one lifetime, but generations of lifetimes. Let's go on down to the next slide, and it's a real simple slide. This is what must happen. Basically, the global financial elite, the deep state, my Bible tells me they have to be pulled up by the root. It's just like you have to go pull a tooth. You can't just go in. So basically, we have to drain the swamp, which is what Trump has been doing, take away their power, take away all their money. And when we take away their money, they lose the ability to control the 8 spheres of influence. And when they lose that, they lose their megaphone, they lose their politicians, they lose their bankers, they lose their corporations. They lose all the ways in which they control us. And that's what's got to happen. This has to be traumatic. We have to take them down completely. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. If you understand what this man is doing, what the white hats behind him are doing, he's pulling the global elite system up by the very roots, just like the Bible says we have to. Michael, comments before we go on?
No, that's great. And I love that those replicator homes. They're amazing. 3D replicators. They come in and it's like just pour that, that concrete and the steel, everything goes in. It's like just amazing. And they're so cheap. Because, homes these days are just so expensive, hardly anyone can afford them now.
I've got a show coming up I worked 12 years in real estate, and at the end I have my own real estate firm. We can write a couple of laws on a postcard that will completely change the entire real estate market so that people will not be retiring, still owning a mortgage, and so that young people will be able to buy a house because they'll no longer be able to price you out of the market, and they'll no longer be able to say, we're building 5,000 homes over here, but guess what, folks? Every one of them is for rent only. So there's some things coming, and I'm basically just coming off of what Trump is doing and elaborated a little bit. So that's the good news that's coming. Let's go down to the next one, and here's where we're going to explain why we're having all these geological events happening. And I'm going to take you back in history. So back in 1811, we had a we had an astronomical event like what you see here, where all the planets were in line with the sun, which does what? Creates basically gravitational pull, and you get a lot of sunspots. So we didn't have the electronics we have today, but we did have the telegraph. And those sunspots were so strong that what it did is it caused the telephone poles to catch on fire. And what also happened in that same year, it popped the New Madrid fault zone, 3 major earthquakes in the 8 range. And I'm going to talk about that a little later, but basically history repeats itself. Those signs are set up. There's signs in the skies and in the heavens, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. And now, why are we having things heat up all over the world? Every continent is having things happening that we've never seen before. It's because the scientists are predicting that we're having a pole shift that's been coming for years and years and years. The magnetic field is weakening, and what's causing it is the ice caps are melting, and literally trillions of tons of ice have melted and now are free in the ocean, and the Earth sits on the 23.5 degrees tilt. And so now the balance is shifted. So if we go to that picture down below, this is what it indicates. No, that same picture, the same slide, the bottom picture. So that's a cantilever. And what we've got is we've got a situation like happening in California. And the scientists said, we can't imagine it's never happened. There was not an earthquake, and yet 400 miles of coastline in California rose 6 feet. Here's why. Because what's happening is that weight distribution is pushing down on that lever, and it's uplifting the land. That's just exactly what happened in California. And those holes, those 4,000 holes, those are caused by two things. In the instance of Florida and the East Coast, it's because they set on limestone, and over time, limestone is permeable, and it basically starts to look like Swiss cheese, and it loses its integrity. But in other places of the world that aren't on the coast, we still have those holes. And why? Because we have abused Mother Nature, because we have sucked our aquifers dry, making huge voids in the earth and creating a situation where we have homes just falling into houses, and we have eventually probably skyscrapers that might just decide to be dominoes and fall, and who knows what they'll do. So the things that are happening are unheard of. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to see, but God knew the end before the beginning. He always does. And it may be to cleanse the earth, but it's for good. So consequences. There's no coincidences at all in God's kingdom. Everything that we're going to see was foretold before the beginning of time. So let's go on to the next slide, and we go all the way back in history to Nineveh. And what do we have? We have a warning. And what was that warning? It was an eclipse. And what happened is, do you see it? Okay. What happened is the people repented in fear, and they bent their knees and they turned to God, and something interesting happened. Israel had lost a lot of their border. And after this happened, they got their border restored. So now let's go to this next slide, and we'll see again that there's no coincidences. So Jonah went there to scare the people, and they repented. The question is, are we going to repent? So now we're going to go up forward to 2017, and there was an eclipse that came across the fault zone in California, went across Yellowstone, and went across the Madrid fault zone in the Boot Heel of Missouri, and across out of the nation. Then there was one that came in 2023, again across the fault zone in California, and it crossed over down in Texas over Eagle Pass. And why was that significant? Because just like with Jonah in the previous slide, we had our borders taken, and now Trump is in the process of restoring them. That's why it crossed at Eagle Pass. And then we had an eclipse in 2024. I mean, God just keeps warning us if we'll pay attention. And it intersected both of those places, Eagle Pass, saying that we can restore our border, and then New Madrid, the location of the largest, most powerful earthquake in the United States, other than in Alaska, right there. And we're going to find out in a little while exactly what that means. But basically, we need to pay attention and look at 2 cities here, Little Egypt and Cairo. That's taking us biblically back and telling us these events are to cleanse us. These events are to set us free. This is taking us back to the wealth transfer when the Israelites left Egypt with all the wealth, and into the Exodus when they crossed over. And now it's not just a single nation, it's the whole world. So this is the best news you could possibly have. We're getting out of Egypt and out of Cairo. And what does Egypt mean? House of bondage. So God is telling his people, don't be afraid. I've got it all under control. And let's go down and we see next, was God telling us even more? I mean, look at this. Look at all those dots. All those dots represent the location of a city. And the name of those cities is Jerusalem. And within Jerusalem, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, is USA. So the ark of that eclipse had all of those cities named Jerusalem, going right back to the Bible. Do you think maybe God's telling us something that he wants us to know? And then let's go on down to the next one. And we see another, coincidence, I suppose. We basically got an August 21st, 2017 eclipse going with an April 8th, 2024. And we're crossing New Madrid again. And then what do we got? All of these cities are called Nineveh.
Wow.
Harkening back to the eclipse that we had all that time back. So, I mean, maybe I'm just naive, but I don't think this is coincidence. I think it's statistically impossible. I think God is telling us something.
I don't see how this can be planned.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, like these cities have probably been there for, some of them well over 100 years. Who was masterminding this eclipse coming? No, I don't think anybody could have done that. That's crazy.
God knows the end before the beginning. And so we're summing up this. This is the foreshadow. God never does anything unless he tells us before, tells his prophets, tells the people. So this is what we got here. We've got 7 cities named Salem, and we've got 7 cities named Nineveh. And it just happens that between 2017 and 2024 was a 7-year period, and 7 stands for God's number of perfection. I mean, wow. We have a God that just is unbelievable. He knows the end before the beginning. And if we put it in Einstein's terms, time is not a linear progression like we think it is. So we go to this next one, and here's where I have to stop. I didn't want to do this show. I didn't want to tell people that we were going to have the governments collapsing and we were going to have earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. But for almost 6 weeks, God said, you do what I tell you to do. You tell the people, because I'm going to warn the people. And if you tell them what I tell them, you'll save lives. There'll be people who will be able to identify, generally speaking, the safe places, generally speaking, the places that aren't safe. And then here's what he says. You tell them to get on their knees, and you tell them to pray to me, and you ask them, God, if I'm in one of those danger zones, do you want me to stay here? Am I to be the light in the center of that? Or do you want me to move to one of the places that look like it's going to be safe? So you get on your knees and you ask God and you pray. You don't pay any attention to what I say. You ask God. He'll tell you if you need to stay there or if you need to move, and he'll tell you precisely where to go. So if you're to stay there to be the light, fine. And if you're to move, then I've got to tell you the pattern that I'm seeing. As I look at these earthquakes and we look at what's coming, did you know that 70% of the world's population is on the coast in every continent? And do you know that that's generally speaking where the money's at, where the power's at, where the corruption's at, where the financial system is at? And if mostly what he's doing is purging the coast, he's taken out the power structures of the global financial elite, and he's leading us into, we're back into the Bible. We're back to Abraham, where he's telling Abraham, leave your mother, leave your father, go out to a land that I tell of you, and I will make of you a great nation and great nations. So he's, I think, telling the people there's going to be a mass exodus from the coast into the interiors of every continent, and you're going to be the seed that is going to create a new kingdom of heaven on earth right here. We're going to basically get away from the materialism that we have and the control systems we have. We're going to bend a knee. We're going to go into the greatest revival the world has ever seen. And over a period of time, the earth is just like it says in the Bible, on earth as in heaven. The earth is going to become just exactly what God intended it to be. It's going to look a lot like the Garden of Eden. Let me shut up and let you comment before we go on.
No, that's great. I've heard this too about Vesuvius and Pele. a lot of people that are tapped into this are saying the same thing. So that's going to be amazing.
And this is your warning sign. So here's what I have to say. People are hard-headed. And if somebody just showed them that, they'd say, well, we'll see, right? So here's telling you, if they erupt close together, then you can expect that that's going to send shockwaves across to where? To the ring of fire. And what's going to happen? It's going to be an unzipping. So it's just going to go pop. Each earthquake, each volcanic eruption is going to weaken that ring of fire and move on down the line till it finally gets to the west coast of the United States. So the next place is Japan. So if you see Vesuvius pop and then you see Japan, start paying attention. And then it's going to go right through where? Hawaii. If you see Hawaii pop, then I'm sorry, folks, the west coast of the United States is next. And it's looking, according to the geologists, not me, like we're having massive micro earthquakes on both the New Madrid and on the Cascade fault zones, and they're weakening the faults. And they're saying if we got one that was as big as like an 8 point something or other, it could unzip both fault zones, and San Francisco and Los Angeles would experience a very, very significant earthquake. So that's what's happening. And then from there,
and also there we have people that have testified, or not testified, but they've disclosed that submarines can go under California and come up in Nevada. And there's an undersea warfare center in Hawthorne, Nevada. It's an Army Weapons Depot where the Navy has undersea weaponry. So if there's a lot of people are like, how is California going to go in the sea and become islands? It's because it's hollow underneath.
I wasn't going to go this far down the rabbit hole, but now you've opened the door, so I'm going to do it now. So when I get to these safe places, I need to tell you where I went. The geologists are talking about the seismic readings. They're talking about what they can see with their instruments right now. But if we go way, way back to Nostradamus, to I think it's called Benavida, she's from Europe, and Edgar Casey and several others, including moving up to modern prophets, they all had predictions of earth changes. And so I just have to tell you a personal story based on what you said. 5 years ago, I mean, maybe longer than that, God brought me here to what I believe is the Goshen for the United States of America, Branson. I went to a charity event, and I happened to be sitting next to a retired submarine captain, and we got to talking. And he lives in the Ozarks, and he was telling me why he lives here, which relates to these earth changes, and about a special voyage he went on. He was told to take his submarine under California as far as he could and then turn north and go to the North Pole. He went under California 300 miles. And over a series of earthquakes, we're going to see San Francisco and Los Angeles go, but then we're going to see more pieces and pieces and pieces of California basically drop into the ocean for that shelf to collapse until finally the west coast of the United States ends where the east coast of California is right now. But that's over a long period of time. Right now, what's in jeopardy is Los Angeles and San Francisco. So let's go on down, and the ring of fire is over there, and it goes from the tip of South America all the way around, all the way down to New Zealand, and that's basically where what you have happening there, and why 90% of all the volcanoes and earthquakes in the world happen within that zone is because that's where the Poseidon zone is for the continental plates within that region of the world. But look at all those other yellow dots, and you'll see that basically it's not just the ring of fire. There are other fault zones. There's been a process going on in Africa for a long time that's beginning to increase, where they say just like America is going to split, Africa's going to split. And so if we go back to the prophets, what they're telling us is this pole shift is not going to be like what happened in ancient times. We now know that both Greenland and Antarctica were green at some point in history. And we believe that pole shift was several degrees all at one time, sloshing water all over the planet, which could have been the source of the mud floods that we had. But this has been going on for a long time. It's a gradual natural process. So it's not going to cause the oceans to flow out of the borders, but it is going to cause all these earthquakes and volcanoes. And what they're predicting is the shift will be from the north to the south. And ironically, it's going to change the jet stream, and it's going to make Canada and Russia the breadbasket of the world, because they'll be warmer, and Siberia will be a major agricultural zone for the world. And when we get down to it, don't look at China or Russia or Iran or any of these people as our enemies. It's the global financial elite. The people in those nations want to be out from under that suppression. And so when that happens, they're going to be our friends. We're going to be happy that they're able to grow food to feed us, to feed the rest of the world. So let's go on down and we'll get into what's happening today in America. So this was basically just a few weeks ago where we started seeing geologically sound cliffs that had been there for thousands of years falling away, houses falling into the ocean. And at the same time, a 400-mile stretch of California's coastline rose 6 feet. And the geologists said, that could never happen. There was no seismic activity. There was no earthquake. It's because of that pressure I was talking about, that cantilever pulling up with the subduction plate, pulling up on the continental plate. That's what raised the coastline of California. Let's go on down and we'll just take a tour around what's coming. This next one, oh my gosh.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't know about this till a couple of days ago. And I know you know about this. So do you want to make a comment before I jump into this?
Yeah, this is pretty amazing. They're hiding this, but you can still find it if you really dig deep. But yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy. So one of the things is, the Hoover Dam is basically losing a lot of water. All the water been having is great, but when you lose water and you've had that pressure and you lose that pressure, it starts to affect things. And now they're getting water again. So if there's a little bit of geological shift, which that area, why would they build something in a high geological, problem area? It's crazy. But yeah, we're probably going to see, possibly, I'm not going to say probably, but possibly see Hoover Dam crack and that water just spill out.
Well, what you're talking about is the same thing that's happening at the poles. Basically, when all that ice melts, it's now not compressing down on the soil, and the soil can expand back again. Well, they say, according to the research that I've done, that they're flabbergasted. They didn't know there were any earthquake zones in there, no volcanic vents of any kind. But what happened within the last couple of weeks is that dam is 400 foot deep at the dam. And the temperature doesn't even vary 1 degree over the course of a year. And so they had a 12-degree increase in temperature in just 2 hours. And that set the alarms off, and they went down. They sent drones down to see what was going on. They found an area where it smelled like sulfur, and the water was murky white. They took water samples, they sent it off to be processed, and they came back and said, oh my God. Oh my, the water that we have has particles in it that only come from the intermantle of the globe. So this is not to say this thing is going to blow up tomorrow, but what we have apparently is a volcanic vent. Now, we have vents in Yellowstone that have been there for 60,000 years, 600,000 years, and they haven't popped. But we've got the dam that feeds 25 million people in the western half of the United States, that basically provides water for irrigation for the entire western half of the United States. We get almost all of our winter vegetables from there. If this goes, it is an unbelievable event. And if we jump over to China, the biggest dam in the world, Three Gorges Dam, it's
already cracking. Yep. Big time.
And it might go. And if that's the case, I mean, it's way, way bigger than here. It will basically, it'll take most of the farming production from China and just basically wipe it out. And they have a catastrophic water problem anyway. And so when that goes, I mean, the devastation from it is going to be unbelievable. So let's go down and go to the next slide. And here we're going to get into some prophecy. And this is what kind of brought me to where I live. I was going to move to Texas to be near my son. I was raised up in the Bible with two prophets who mentored me for 6 years. And one of them called me and said, Larry, God says you're not going to move to Texas. I said, you're right. I hated it. He said, you got a hotel reservation and that's where God's going to plant you. It turned out to be Branson. So I went out the next day being dutiful to the Lord, and I went and looked at real estate. I went back home and I put my house up for sale. The day I moved back, I rented a condo while I was looking for a place. I went to College of the Ozarks because I'd always heard about it. It's a Christian community. For those of you who have kids, if you've got kids who are really, really smart and the top of their classes, they can apply and go down there, and 90% of the students don't pay any tuition at all. They work 15 hours a week. It's called Hard Work U. So anyway, they had an event that related to Corrie ten Boom, a prophetess that was under Billy Graham, that was in the concentration camps in World War II. And she was supposed to have Springfield. And we had no municipal airport at the time, but there was a little bitty airstrip at College of the Ozarks. Well, she flew down to make her circle to make the landing. And she flew. Now, think about what we just talked about up at the coast, right? She went down over northern Arkansas, and she said there is an event coming in the future where there'll be a mass exodus from the coast to the heartland, and a large number of those people are going to come here to northern Arkansas. Then when she landed on the tarmac at College of the Ozarks, that was only about 40 miles north, she said, this is a place kind of like our Goshen, where God is bringing people to raise them up, because this is where the fire revival is going to break out in the United States and spread all around the world. It's going to create God's harvest. And why America? Because God orchestrated us to be the melting pot of the world, to show the world all those immigrants that came over here from this oppression under feudalism in Europe learned to live together when they assimilated into the uniquely American culture. Now we've been divided. God's going to unite us again, and we're going to again become the United States of America, and that is going to happen and wash over the entire world and bring in what? Oh, you're drawing it up so people can see it, and bring in the harvest of souls. Comments. Let me stop and, that picture is not an exact representation of what she said and what Edgar Casey said and several others, but I lived in Chicago for years, and the Chicago River is only 10 miles from the Mississippi River. And what they're saying is this geological event within Madrid Fault is going to cause the Great Lakes to merge with the Mississippi River, creating a waterway that goes all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. And it's just going to spread out and fill what is the normal natural floodplain. So right now the Mississippi River is about a mile wide and in the Midwest. So imagine this. It fills, the whole floodplain is full, and you see this mile-long bridge sitting out, but there's 25 miles of water on both sides. That's what might happen. The United States might get cut in half. So I don't want to tell people that kind of stuff, but don't be afraid. Just sit down and pray. Talk to God. He'll guide you. He'll tell you what's going on. And actually, there'll be some benefit from it, because, man, is that a commerce zone. And the Mississippi River is having problems because we have been pulling water out of it, and the aquifers down below that's causing the balance of water in the Mississippi River to fluctuate, because normally half the water is above and half the water is in the aquifers. And so now we're having a problem where there's not enough water, and they're having to have barges that have a lot less load on them. So basically, This would actually be a benefit to our commerce. But anyway, let's go on down. And we're going to continue our tour around the United States of America and what's coming. So up above, you see that basically that's California. We used that one slide before. It is telling us that the first quake to hit California is going to be Los Angeles and San Francisco. And then this slide hasn't got everything in it, so I'm going to just go back to what we're talking about. I'm going from west to east. So if we progress across the United States, the next place that's at least in danger is the Hoover Dam. Now, that might not turn into a full-blown volcanic eruption ever, but it's now a ticking time bomb. And then we go to the Midwest, and that's in the Madrid Fault Zone. And I want to tell you what happened when that went on. Look at that map. Look at the portion that's almost half the United States that was in that fault zone. And 1,000 miles away on the East Coast, church bells rang. And the Mississippi River had a tsunami, and the river rose 20 feet, and barges were thrown out into into the shoreline, and it went all the way up to St. Louis and changed the course of the river and created Horseshoe Lake. But here's why it's so powerful. That aquifer down below from millions of years of water seeping down into the Mississippi, when it pops, it creates an underwater tsunami. So all that pressure turns into geysers, and it's just, imagine a tsunami that's happening underground. That's what we're facing with the New Madrid Fault Zone. And then we go to
some of that actually happened too. There were huge geysers that came out during the New Madrid fault or the quake, and like you said, the Mississippi reversed. It was incredible. There was liquefaction of the soil. Things sank. It was crazy. Yeah. So that comes back as strong or stronger today. It would really be devastating.
Yeah. Back then, there weren't that many people in that part of the country.
Yeah.
But now you've got Norfolk, you've got Memphis, Tennessee, you've got St. Louis, you got some huge cities. So anyway, this next one, I didn't know about this until a week ago. This was I had to redo the slide presentation. There's not a picture up here about it. All right, now, well, there's further down, and that's the Appalachian Mountains. And according to the research that I did, it's one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world, and certainly in the United States. I don't have a picture of it right here. So basically what they found is it was geologically considered to be dead. Hadn't had any geologic activity in millions and millions of years. And now, just like under Hoover Dam, let's go back and let's go give you an example. We go to Mount St. Helena. Before Mount St. Helena blew its top, it does what all these volcanoes do. It has uplift where the magma chamber is pushing up against the crust and the land starts to rise. So they had something that blew their minds. The geologists said within just a few weeks period, they had a 12-centimeter rise in the Appalachian Mountains. That doesn't sound like much, right? Well, that's thousands and thousands of years of normal geologic uplift in just a couple of weeks. And so they went in and they did the same things they did at Hoover. They found the gases. They found all the telltale signs that says there's now volcanic activity, a chamber under the Appalachian Mountains.
Wow.
I mean, God is shaking everything that can be shaken. And then we go over to Florida, and we're on the East Coast now. And we see what's happening. Huge sinkholes are happening, and houses are falling in them. And then there's all kinds of prophets that say that at some point, because of the melting ice caps or because of another event, that New York is going to be underwater. And here's what could happen if we go back a long, long way back, over all the way across the ocean to the Canary Islands. One of the biggest volcanoes in the world sits there, and it had an eruption, and it split that island in half. And they say if it ever has another volcanic eruption as powerful as the one it had, that half of Easter Island will fall in the ocean. And the result would be that the entire east coast of the United States would have inundation for miles in, because when that water hit, that tsunami, they say, would be probably 100-foot tall. 100 foot. So now here's where I got my realization. I looked at all the maps. I listened to what all the geologists were saying, and I said, I don't think it's a coincidence that the places in the world where the power structures, the global financial elite reside, are the principal places that are going to be damaged. And we're going to the heartland of the United States, the flyover territory. We go to New Zealand. We go to Australia. They're going to be relatively safe. So here we go. U.S. changes. I'm going to just read this off so we're kind of summarizing. The coast will be broken up. San Francisco and Los Angeles will have a mega quake. The Great Lakes will empty into the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, and New York and Connecticut will be devastated, and the southern portion of South Carolina and Georgia, and land will appear in both the Atlantic and the Pacific, and that's because as land sinks, more land has to rise so that we can keep the balance for the planet. So, Michael, let me stop and ask you to comment, because every time I stop, you bring in something that's pretty interesting. So please go ahead.
Yeah, so there's, how most rivers in America at least run from north to south. There's one called the New River, which runs south to north. And of course, that's the oldest, kind of play on words, I guess. That's the oldest river in America. And it has a lot of hot springs. I've been there. It's great hot springs. It's near the Appalachian Trail. And there's been massive geological action in America and the world before. I think we're moving towards some more of that, and I think you're bringing up some really good points where you need to be aware. If that tsunami from the Canary Islands, were to hit America like you're talking about, it would almost wash completely over Florida.
Yep. I think most of Florida is only about 6 feet above sea level. Mm-hmm. So you just brought up something else. I don't have it in this presentation, but I'm going to punt. So basically, now I forgot what did you just say? That triggered my mind, and now I lost it.
The Canary Islands, like you were talking about.
Well, just before that. Rivers.
The new river.
So the Bible says that there's going to be a river that's going to open up in the deserts. It's happened recently. And what we're seeing around the world, and this is a tell about that hydraulic pressure. We're seeing springs that have been dry for decades that are rising. We're seeing lakes that are now bubbling with water. So we're seeing pressure, hydraulic pressure from below pushing up, the same kind of pressure that's raising those Appalachian Mountains. And it's happening all over China. It's happening all over the world. So God is telling us on a global level, everything that can be changed is going to change. He's warning his people. Let's go to the next slide. I just wanted to bring that up real quick so you can see just how massive the impact of that New Madrid fault zone would be and what it would look like if it split the United States in half. That next slide down, if you go to it, that's just saying the peaceful, tranquil Appalachian Mountains, might not be as peaceful as we think it is. I'm not saying that it's going to pop right now. I'm just saying that the geologists were amazed that a mountain range that they considered geologically dead for tens of millions of years is waking up. And then let's go on down, keep going. And we go to Florida, and that's been all over the news. So I'm thinking maybe your audience is more aware of that than anything. They've got sinkholes all over the place. All those red dots out there in the water are where the sinkholes began, and now they're moving inland and popping up all over the place. And that house up there happens to be one of them. And now they're predicting that Florida sets on limestone, and limestone is pervious, and now it's beginning to look like Swiss cheese, making that land not strong anymore. And they're saying that even though it hasn't happened in New York and up the seacoast, that it's also setting on limestone, and so it's susceptible to geologic change as well. So we can go on down, and now we're going to get to some good news, folks. I can't tell you all the places in the world that are going to be safe, but there's a whole bunch of prophets that point to these places. Ohio and Indiana, and up in the northern part of the United States, and Nebraska and the Dakotas, and along the west side of the Rocky Mountains. That's all on very, very sound plates that have no fault zones running through them, that everybody is predicting are going to be safe. Now, when you get to Missouri and Arkansas, I got a surprise for you. They're mostly going to be safe, but most people don't know. I lived in Missouri most of my life, and I've been all over Arkansas. We never had any mega volcanoes here, but we did have volcanoes in Missouri and in Arkansas, and we would be affected, both Arkansas and Missouri, by the flooding. So if you live in those two states, basically one of the safest places on the planet is the Ozark Mountains, where you can get up enough elevation, you're protected from the earthquake, and you're out of the water. And guess what? You might have coastal land. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's go on down. And safety this is really important. It's more than a location. You could basically move anywhere you wanted to go. But this is God calling his people. This is a time for spiritual revival. And if you don't set your heart on God and on repentance, you could move to the safest place in the whole world and walk out your door and get hit by a car or have a tree fall on you. So don't think that you're going to run off to some safe place. They say New Zealand is going to be safe, and the center of Australia is going to be safe. No. You get right with God first, and then you talk to God and find out where you're supposed to go. Don't take anything I say. Just look at what God is doing. He's creating a spiritual awakening for mankind. Comments before we go on, Michael?
Yeah, I would say, the coastal areas everywhere in the world are going to be suspect. I would not, settle on any coastline anywhere in the world. So you want to be as high up as you can. and that's probably like you said, trust in God, trust your intuition, and He's going to guide you. So I don't know why. Sometimes I don't know why I move where I move, but when I look back, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. Why I would move to this area. So it's going to be up to you guys, to decide where you're going to move. And like Larry was saying before, some places that are going to be, hit by a lot of, I think, violence and so forth, and things being upset. Some of you are going to stay there and help, return that to balance. It's going to be tough. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very tough, and survival mode probably in some cases. But I think that those of us that are connected, we won't survive. We'll thrive.
Yep. Well, what you brought up on this next slide kind of goes back and harkens to God knows the end before the beginning, and all those eclipses that happened. So He had the destiny for America planned from the very beginning. So I'm going to start. I think it was the 15th or 16th century, and what happened is Spain under Prince Philip was going to invade England, and they had the greatest armada in the world, and England took a few small ships and put a cannon or two on them, and they were going to see what they could do. Well, the Spanish admiral said, "Look, the only advantage they have is they're faster than us. If we cut the anchors, we can maneuver quicker, and we'll make short order of them." So they did. God had it all planned, and what happened is the second they cut those anchors, a gigantic hurricane came, and the English ships were able to moor, and the entire Spanish fleet was destroyed, making way for England to be the nation upon which the sun never set. Now, they were a ruthless nation. They were the reason we came here, to get away from them. But God knew that there was going to be that oppression in Europe and in England in particular, and that He would send His people to the promised land, to in America, where He could show the world that people could come from all over the world that had fought for decades and come and find that we had to work together in stewardship, and America became the melting pot of the world and showed the world that we could live together in peace and harmony. And we did for a long, long time, until the global fleet got their hands in everything and basically pitted us against one another. So that was the first miracle that says God knew the role of America to begin with. And then we go to World War II, we go to Dunkirk, and America has not yet come into the war. And the Allies are up against the English Channel at Dunkirk, which is in France, and they're bombarding them. And Winston Churchill said, if it hadn't been for the miracle of the calm sea, that within 3 days he was going to have to basically surrender. But Hitler thought it was too easy. He called his generals back thinking he's got these men pinned, there's no rush. And the minute he did that, a fog fell over France. The airplanes were grounded. The sea got, and normally that time of the year, it's when it's the highest and roughest, got still as glass. Churchill told the people to get on their knees and pray. And he told them, take every little boat you have, every pleasure craft you have, come across the English Channel. And they evacuated 340,000 men. And wait a minute, there's another event. If you think God's hand hasn't been on America, did you ever hear of the Enigma? What the Enigma was the first version of a computer, and it was the code system that Hitler had, and it was so complicated. It was amazing, and the chances of breaking it. Are you ready for this? 100 million to 1. 100. I didn't say that wrong. 100 million to 1. And they brought in a whole group of people with all kinds of expertise, people who could hear from the Lord, people who were sensitive, and they basically broke that code. And here's what they did. They sacrificed some people here and there because they knew where every submarine was going to go and whatever. And they basically kept that a secret for the entire war. And what Churchill said is, if we hadn't been able to break that code, and if we hadn't been able to keep secret the fact that we broke it, we would have lost the war. So 3 miracles that show you.
That's incredible. Wow. I didn't know that about Dunkirk. I knew, they went over every boat that they had, but I didn't realize that was, and it makes sense. That was one of the, normally, very high tides and rough seas, and the fog came in to ground the planes and everything. Wow, that's incredible. Now the Enigma machine, there was like one guy, one mathematician, and he had a group of women. So I love to always bring that up because women, were in their part too. Maybe not so much in the battlefield, but definitely in the backgrounds. So that was a major, major event. So incredible mathematicians of the time, worked together like you talked about and cracked that. Now you said also that they suspected that they had the Enigma because they were getting very good at stopping their attacks. So they sent one almost in the clear through the Enigma machine that they were going to do a major bombing in London. And like you said, Churchill, he sacrificed a lot of people because he said if they had gone up to meet it, that would have been a clear indication that they'd broke the Enigma machine and they would have shut it down. So the bombing go through and it killed a lot of people. Yeah.
A hard call, but a necessary call.
Yeah.
So let's go on now to the next slide. The good news is, Michael, we're almost done. Okay, so this is going to tell us what the social structure is going to look like as we move forward. The social structure, we're fractured. We're basically going to get out from under God's kingdom, under man's kingdom. That means communism and socialism. We're going to go to God's kingdom. And basically, we're going to return to our founding principles. And it was Stalin who said, if we can take America's principles away from them, meaning our patriotism, our family values, and our belief in the Bible, America will fall apart from within. And that's what you see in those pictures down below. Father knows best, community, and then basically people don't know that our whole Constitution, Benjamin Franklin said it. He said that our Constitution was not based on the laws of man, but based on the 10 commandments of God. So here's what's coming. Migration from the coast to the heartland. This is kind of a summary. Migration from the cities to the rural communities, independency on corporations and big government, and return to self-sufficiency, which is the very reason our founders came here. They wanted rugged of self-sufficiency. They wanted to own a home. They wanted to own a piece of land. They wanted to work it. They didn't want to be dependent on the government. And then decreased focus on materialism and increased focus on spiritualism and on God. And then an increased focus on family, community, and spirituality. That is what's coming. And that's going to, just think about living in New York or living in California. Where I lived, Chicago. I left Chicago because it had become a cesspool. And now I'm down here in the Ozarks and it's peaceful, it's calm. We don't have, in Branson, where I live, there's not a single standalone beer tavern. If you want to have an alcoholic beverage, you have to go to a restaurant. There's no gambling. They come in here 4 or 5 times and try to bring gambling in. This is an area that's dedicated to God. And the county right outside of Branson is not coincidentally, but it's called Christian County. So go figure. That's the future of that piece of land that's going to be the Goshen that's protected as we go through this. All right, then this slide is just basically saying America is a nation that is going to lead the world into the greatest harvest of souls that we've ever seen. We're the chosen nation. And if we go to this next slide, we'll see why. And there's a statue there, and if you look closely, that's not the Statue of Liberty. That's the Plymouth Monument. And it was built way before the Statue of Liberty. And there's 4 smaller monuments on the bottom, and they are talking about the one above is holding a Bible, and they're denoting that our basic principles for our republic was the Bible, liberty, morality, education, and law. So we're a government based on education and law. And what they said is a republic has a unique set of requirements. You have to be able to read. You have to know the Bible, so you have morality. You have to base your government on a set of laws, so that it was, I think Benjamin Franklin, who said that the minute that those least willing are able to work find out that they can get money from the public coffers, it's just a matter of time until the nation falls into unmanageable debt and collapses. So there's the foundation that they're trying to take away from us. This next slide is my interpretation of why only America can come out of this. Just like we came out after the Civil War and led the world into the Industrial Revolution, We led the world into the .com. We led the world into the computer revolution. We're leading the world into the AI revolution. We're leading the world into the quantum computing revolution. America is the innovator of the world because we're the most freest nation in the world. And unless you can check every one of these boxes, you are not going to be the leader of the world. So the first one deals with freedom. Nobody in the world wants to be under communism or capitalism. I mean, our communism or communism. So America, free from the global financial elite, the world is going to trust us because they know the heart of the American people. So that's the first requirement. The second is a diverse, abundant natural resources. Well, we were giving those away to China pretty quick, but now Trump has come back in. And right now, as of today, we've been buying oil from Saudi Arabia and other nations for decades, most of my adult life. And now we have more oil than any other nation in the world. We've gone out and we just did a huge lithium deal in Australia. We've done a pipeline in Alberta, which we're going to be talking about next week in terms of the significance of Canada and Europe. And let's go on down. And we lost our manufacturing because what? Because the global financial elite under Carter set a set of circumstances where they allowed China to come into the World Trade Organization, and basically money from the bad guys flowed to China to build. We built China with American money, and now all that money is coming back. Trump has commitments for $18 trillion to build factories. He's getting rid of the regulations that made it difficult for us to build infrastructure, and he's going to make America once again the most powerful nation in the world. We will not be a unipolar world anymore. It's not going to be just America. It's going to be probably, in my mind, 5 or 6 nations that will share the status of reserve currency. The United States, I think, will be the most prominent, but Russia will still be there. China will be there. Iran will be there. India will be there. And maybe Brazil down in South America. But at any rate, we're going to share power. We're going to share logistics. We're going to share natural resources. The whole world is going to come together and basically stand as one. So let's see where I left off over here. Energy and food independence. We are a breadbasket. We feed 100 nations around the world. That's why it would be so devastating if the Hoover Dam were to pop, because we wouldn't be able to feed ourselves, much less nations around the world. And the demographics as it relates to GDP. So let's take a nation like China, huge population. And no matter what the GDP is, they're not able to have anywhere near the standard of living that we have because that money is distributed between 1.4 billion people. So we have some of the best standards of living in the world, and we got plenty of money to invest and grow our economy. And this one's really important. If we go back to the book of Revelation, we find that there are beast systems and the combination beast. We were part of that when we were founded. The lion, which is England, which is the mouthpiece of the beast, and the UN has said it. English is the world's universal language, and we broke away from them when the wings were taken off the lion, and America became what? Its own nation. So we're not part of that beast system anymore. So basically, we have a global language, we have global reach, we have a global military, and we are the only nation that checks every one of those boxes. I say again, America is the nation chosen by God before the foundation of time to bring the people of the world together in unity, so that he knew that a nation divided could not stand, but we were going to be the light on the shining hill that showed the whole world how to stand together in unity. So before we go to these last 2 slides, let's let you come in and summarize anything that you want to add to what I've said.
No, it seems like it's moving in the right direction for America. America is the leader of the world, and I think you're right. It's divine. It was decided, and of course, they tried to take America down. We saw that with the Biden administration, but it didn't work out. And now all of that's turning around, and it's going to be better than any time in history as far as a nation, I believe.
Yep. Well, let's go to this next slide, and I just want to remind people, here again, we're right back to where we started. We're in the Exodus. It's not just Egypt. It's the entire world. Everybody all over the world is being set free, and with it is coming what? the silver and gold, the wealth transfer. We're going out from under the fiat slave system, and we're going into God's economic system that cannot be manipulated, that's based on all the natural resources that God put on this earth to basically take care. And he says what? He says, my birds neither toil are in their feed, they're taken care of, and we have all the resources we want, but we need to become stewards so we don't waste and squander them like we have been. So let's go on down, and this is something from my personal life. I need to tell you a little bit. People who really follow me know my life story, but basically I had an alcoholic father. I had a manic depressive mother. I lived in the ghetto. I was bused from the ghetto to the suburbs with the white kids. And when I got off the buses, I had patches all over my pants, and the 3 or 4 white guys would meet me every day and spit on me and call me poor white trash. I was a mess. I mean, absolutely a mess. I had no idea what I was going to do, where I was going to go. I was just totally messed up. And finally, God came to me one day and he said, it's all in my Bible. Go study my Bible. It's there. And he gave me these things, the 12 great virtues. And he gave me a way that I want to close on this because I want people to understand. We're walking into a change that's so unbelievable. It's unreal. These are the basis of walking into spirituality. So what I did is I wrote these down. I've had them on my wall for 40 years. I wrote a definition to go with them. You can write your own definition, but humility and then devotion. I want to point out devotion. It's not to your spouse. It's not to your neighbors. It's to a higher source, meaning God. And what I did is for 1 month, I took each one of these for a month, over a year. And I said, this month, I'm going to be the epitome of kindness. I'm going to be the epitome of sincerity, whatever. And then at the end of that year, I had made some progress. And then when I said this, which one am I the weakest in? And I said, okay, for a whole year, I'm going to read that definition once a month, and I'm going to endeavor to try to be the epitome of efficiency or whatever. The most important one on there is persistence, because you can be brilliant, you can be anything, but if you give up, then you're destined to failure. So basically, I reprogrammed my brain using this. And then there's one other little tip. As we go into this and things get scary, I'm going to tell you how God taught me how to pray. I sat down, he says, do this at the appointed time. Do it before you go to bed at night and pray like this. You cannot ask for anything from God. You have to use what I consider the most important name of God, which is I am. I am that I am that I am. And you have to say, I am. And then let's just put a declaration in front of it. I am going to have my platform grow so that I can fulfill what you told me to do and have the message that you've given me to set the captives free, be permeated around the world. So you just basically go to bed at night and you pray that. It's an affirmation using God's name, I am. And here's what happens. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are going to have a hard time with what I'm about to say, but I'm telling you, it changed my life. Here's what happens. It makes me have that appointed time when God comes to me, because the Holy Spirit within us is inside of us, and it's kind of like our subconscious. So when we pray that prayer just before we go to sleep, we're telling that we're giving over to the Holy Spirit control, and we're letting God guide us. And I'm telling you, you'll find that when you do that, you'll have miracles happen in your life. And then one thing you got to do is be forever grateful when God gives you that, so he'll keep coming back. That's just my personal journey. I wanted to share it because I think we're coming into a time where we're all going to need to develop tools to walk into this new spiritual world that we're going into. Comments, Michael, before we go on, because I know that you've had some of those kind of experiences yourself.
Oh, yeah. Each one of those great virtues, they are. Persistence, one of my strongest traits, but I work on all of them as well.
There you go, folks. Now, real quick, I've been invited to a conference with Mel Carmine down in Florida. There's the details. It's March 28th and 29th. If you click on that, you can go there and find out who all the speakers are and everything you need to know about it. And Michael is a friend of Mel's as well, so I asked him if we could put this up to promote that conference. And if there's anybody out there who follows me, who wants to meet me, this is only the second event I've ever gone to in person. So you'll have an opportunity to meet the old man if you want to. And then the last slide, if you can believe it, is just announcing that my new book is out. And it's not a coincidence either. God gives me, I've a book that's out already. And I now have this one coming out and a third one that's already been written that I'm not going to release until the end of this year. But basically, this was written 3 years ago, parked, and then God said, come back in and rewrite it because it has to be up to the date. But 3 years ago, it was named Liberty Crusade, Restoring the Republic. Exactly where we're at right now. This was a God-ordained book leading us for the transition from the fall of the global elite to the restoration of the United States and America and restoring the Republic for not just America, but for the entire world. This is your guide to what is coming on the earth and what you need to know to make sure that we get this back from the bad guys and keep it for a long, 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 long time. So, Michael, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a great presentation, Larry. We had huge views on this one, so I think it's going to do really well. So yeah, LarryBallard.com, guys. It's in the top description box for all my guests. I always put them first. So get that book. I'm going to get that book right after we get done. So looking good, Larry.
Going to be out probably the first week of March.
Very good. Okay. All right, sir. Thanks so much, and we'll be looking forward to doing more shows with you. I guess you're just God is working